Chapter 1795 Unstoppable Assault. The Immortals. What can be said about the armored ants that hasn't been said already? An anvil on which the enemies of the ants cannot help but break, yet also a mighty hammer, smashing through any defensive line put in front of them. Each of them a powerful, highly evolved monster in their own right. When combined into a single column and draped in expertly made and heavily enchanted steel, they are truly unstoppable. Legend has it that none have died in battle, something I personally dismissed as nonsense propaganda when I had first heard it. After facing them in battle, I am no longer sure. For one, the ants do not deploy this secret weapon lightly or without preparation. Their commanders are fully aware of what the Immortals can and cannot do and never deploy them where their signature tactics will not be effective. If the ground is too treacherous, if there is too much magic and artillery fire such that the heavy shock troops would get bogged down without reaching enemy lines, then they are not unleashed. But when the conditions are right, when you think your defense is sound and your lines are well established, the ground beneath your feet will begin to shake. I know now that retreat is the only solution once that moment has come. I stood and fought them many times, and I have never seen a single one die. No matter how well dug in I thought I was, they smashed through like the clenched fist of an angry god. Selfless, without fear, perhaps insane, there is nothing the Immortals will not charge. Similarly, there is nothing they will not break. Excerpt from the private notes of General Mac Knowles of the Atrium Empire. Live, die, live again, Leroy bellowed, her entire body alive with energy, her core blazing like a miniature sun. We live, we die, we live again, the Immortals roared in return, their legs pounding the ground as they launched themselves forward. Sacrifice without end, crunch. The first monster to try and stand against them vanished in a cloud of mist, flattened and trampled underfoot in an instant as the armored column continued to build momentum. Moments ago, the colony had performed one of its favorite tricks and blasted a thick cloud of cleansed mana down this tunnel, driving back the corruption and killing off the foulness that plagued it. Mostly, the tail has been stolen. If detected on Amazon, report the violation. Frenzied and weakened, the local monsters threw themselves towards the Immortals the moment they saw the ants coming, which suited Leroy down to the ground. Crabs dripping with ooze rose up and tried to confront the ants. They exploded in a cloud of ooze and shell fragments. Snails and slugs belched acid and dripped slime, screeching in hatred. The Immortals ran straight through them without even slowing down. Rivers of mucus and thick bands of sludge obstructed their path, blocking the way forward. Did the Immortals flinch? Did they turn? Did they notice? No, they simply ran, each one locked into place by the sister ahead, behind and on either side. In truth, they couldn't see where they were going or what was in the way, and they didn't need to. They only trusted in their sisters and in the knowledge that whatever they found along the way was sure to kill them eventually, and that it would be glorious. And so, rivers of mucus, which seemed like a bad target for a column of charging ants, were obliterated, the sheer momentum and mass of the Immortals more than sufficient to reverse the tides. Thick webs of sludge were snapped and cleared without issue, and still the charge went on. At the head of the column, Leroy was filled with excitement and joy. With the force of her sisters behind her, she could have lifted her legs from the ground and still been carried forward, such was their speed and power. In truth, she'd forgotten the plan long ago, sure that the Immortals would find their rightful destiny at some point on this charge, perhaps on the other side of that wall. There was no point in trying to turn an Immortal charge, that simply wasn't how it worked, so Leroy happily braced, angling her body slightly to present the side of her head, and smashed into the wall, eagerly awaiting the oblivion that was sure to come. Except, it didn't. Fleshy and soft, the wall gave way, tearing and ripping as the Immortals barreled through it, unstopping. Covered in unspeakable chunks and burning with acid, the Immortals continued on their way, happy to find the tunnel beyond was filled with monsters and corrupted mana, increasing the level of danger tremendously. When the charge was finally exhausted, they had ripped through 5 walls and cleared kilometers of tunnel. Exhausted, their armor in ruins, their carapaces pierced and broken, with large sections of their bodies melted away, the Immortals fell, blissfully, gloriously, into the dark abyss. Knowing that their time had come, the fungus parasites that existed within each of the Immortals began to harvest their spores, drawing in energy, regenerating themselves and pulling their hosts back together. Fibers were extended to wrench metal back into shape, to reattach legs and the occasional head, regrowing destroyed organs and muscles. Soon, the zombie fungi were ready to pick their hosts up and pilot them back along the trail of destruction they had left in their wake, into the safety of the colony and the cleansed mana. They returned their hosts to the halls of Undying, delivering each ant to her own personal armory, and there they lay down, content that their hosts had been saved and would live on another day. Chapter 1796. Returning to the fortress. When I finally see the entrance to the fortress in the distance, I almost sag with relief. Not because I've been really suffering over the last few days, but because these legionaries are really annoying. Yes, I'm a giant monster, you hate monsters and all that, we get it, this isn't new or surprising for anyone, but every time my attention drifts, I find them eyeing me up like I'm a delicious turkey they don't know how to slaughter. Always muttering amongst themselves, looking at me sideways, acting all suspicious. I swear a few of them threw rocks at my joints, testing for weakness, but I wasn't able to catch them in the act. I'm pretty sure, though, the rocks didn't throw themselves, damn it. If they actually tried anything, I'm sure Protectant and the others would have jumped on them in an instant, but if all they do is talk and make me paranoid, then there isn't really a case for a dramatic intervention. Considering I haven't slept, and neither have they, over 36 hours straight of this nonsense is more than enough. There it is, the fortress. Inside you'll find Commander Chiron and her legion, who I'm sure will be more than happy to see you. I'm out of here. It's rather large, Commander Eliza notes. How did you manage to build it so quickly? We're ants, I tell her, as if that explains everything. And frankly, it does. We're industrious, what else can I say? This isn't the only fortress like this that we've built down here. How many are there? She asks, probing for information. I have absolutely no idea, I reply. Ha, imagine probing me for information. I have no idea what's going on down here and I like it that way. Someone else can work out all the tricky details, just call for me when they need some help. Thankfully, we've made it into the area covered by the cleansed mana, another thing that Commander Eliza didn't seem to understand. In her opinion, it was impossible to overcome the native mana of the fifth and its self-replicating and corruptive properties. What could I tell her other than that they should have tried harder? Understandably, the legionaries want to wait outside until Chiron or one of the others comes out to get them, which is perfectly reasonable, I suppose, but I sure as heck am not going to stand about waiting with them. As soon as they're comfortable, I head on inside and find Tiny, Chrysalis and Nvidia waiting for me. Hey there, gang, how is everyone? Tiny gives me a broad grin on his bat face and a thumbs up. Good, he tells me. I have SSSSS been Moss SSST helpful, Nvidia purrs, looking immensely pleased with himself. The narrative has been taken without permission. Report any sightings. Chrysalis, counter to what I've come to expect from her, does not dive inside my carapace and start rummaging around between my organs. Which is a good thing. Master, you are late, she tells me pointedly. Yes, well, I'm perfectly fine, as you can see, but there were a few unexpected twists out there. I suppose that isn't your fault, she says, finally approaching and plopping onto my back. This is unusually reserved behavior from Chrysalis, which is making me worried. Did you do anything wrong while I was away? I ask suspiciously. Of course not, she says calmly. Too calmly. I need to get to the bottom of this, but for now, I let it go. I've been promising myself I'm going to go and touch base with the Templars, and I've kept them waiting a heck of a lot longer than I intended to. Using the vestibule, I could have reached out to them any time, of course. Each of them has a permanent home within the nave, so to speak, but I generally don't like talking to people through it. Feels a little invasive, so to speak. Chatting and laughing with the gang, I move through the fortress, deliberately avoiding going where Solent might find me, and head to the location of the Templars. Conveniently for me, they appear to have gathered in one place, making it a heck of a lot easier to track them down. I only run into trouble when I realize they've parked themselves in a spot I simply don't fit inside, namely the human quarter of the fortress. Obviously, the corridors here haven't been designed with monsters in mind, especially monsters of my size, and therefore I just don't fit. With no other choice, I am forced to reach out to them through the nave and speak directly into their minds. Hello there, I've come to pay a visit. How is everyone feeling? Human. I suppose. Wah, what, who? Greetings, Great One. As it turns out, they were sleeping. Well, the older ones were sleeping, the three kids seem to have been wide awake for some reason. Which means this is probably a dorm of some sort. That makes a lot of sense. After a while, the six of them pile out of the corridor, having refreshed themselves and put on some clothes. Good morning, I greet them with enthusiasm. At least, I think it's morning. It isn't, one of the young ones, Amelia, tells me. It's closer to the middle of the night. Oh, I really should find a better way to keep track of time. Pangara does have a regular system of time, as it turns out, synced to the day-night cycle on the surface. It was only when we reached the 4th stratum that we realized everyone else was running on this clock system and we eventually adopted it, but I am, as usual, late to the party and haven't really bothered keeping track of it. I'm really sorry to disrupt your sleep, then, I say, scratching at my head with an antenna, feeling a little embarrassed. The 3 youngest nod seriously, while the others wave away my concerns. It's fine, Jern says, yawning. I was about ready to wake up anyway. Alice snorts a laugh before she blushes and claps a hand to her face. Bertrand, the oldest of the group, reaches up and pats me on the leg. At my age, it's hard to sleep through the night anyway. I'm happy to pop out and say hello. You certainly got a fair bit bigger. I don't think I've seen a larger monster down here. Of course not. I'm a magnificent tier 8 mythic. But enough about how shiny and incredible I am. How have you all been? 1797. To my question, the 6 of them kick their feet and look a little baffled for a moment, glancing from one to the next before finally Jern raises a hand. Jern, I'm not a teacher, you don't need to raise your hand. He lowers it a little reluctantly. It just felt respectful. Great one. You are a god, after all. I'm also not a god. If you say so, he says doubtfully, and I'm reminded that attempting to persuade Jern of anything is an ultimately futile endeavor. We've been pretty busy fighting against the Krath, he goes on. Helping the colony defend the fortresses, supporting the human battalion members and the priests. The priests? I say, confused. How are you helping the priests? Those antennae-wearing morons are a pain in the thorax, but they do provide some rather excellent buffs when the colony fights alongside its allies. Sadly, those buffs are too good to pass up, otherwise I'd happily leave them behind. It's Bertrand who answers, rubbing at the back of his head sheepishly. Well, they ask us to attend a few of the services that they run, say a few words and things like that. I mostly just stand there, Jern says. I can't believe what I'm hearing. They're using you as props in religious services. Am I hearing that right? Well, sort of, Bertrand hedges. I think they like seeing us, since we have some sort of connection with you. And what are you telling them, Bertrand? What words of wisdom do the Templars have to share? He scratches at the back of his neck. Mostly, I just tell them to make sure they get enough sleep. It's not like you've left a list of commandments or something. Is there anything you would like us to say? Some directives for your followers? The 3 young Templars, Amelia, Trine and Allison, all nod firmly at the mention of regular sleep, but grow still and stare at me a little too intently when he asks if I have any other commands. No, I hate to be the one to bring this up again, but I am not a god. I'm an extremely cool and impressive monster. I refuse to lay out official guidelines for life to a bunch of confused believers. Who knows what they would do with them? Telling the colony that they should make sure they get 8 hours of sleep a day ended up turning into a whole thing. To be honest, the torpor police are the main reason I try not to tell the colony what to do too much. Goodness knows what'll happen the next time I open my big pheromone gland. The author's tale has been misappropriated. Report any instances of this story on Amazon. Sheesh. When it was just the priests I had to worry about, this wasn't such a big deal, but now there's way too many of them. If anything, their insane beliefs are only spreading. Where it was once confined to the survivors in Renewal, now it's gotten into the dungeon cities within colony territory and is filtering out wider and wider. The Crusades didn't help, that's for sure. Now there's a ton of people out there who've joined this bizarre ant-based religion, to the point where that idiot Bane received a prophet class. Gah, nope. Don't want to think about that, let's just move on. Alright, so you've been helping the colony fight here in the 5th, I say, determined to move on from any talk of priests and faith and how I'm definitely not a god. How's that been going? Alice speaks up for the first time. Fighting is something she's more than happy to talk about, as usual. Good, great one. We've gained a lot of levels and are ready to advance our classes. We were just waiting until you woke up and came to see us. Why? Any particular reason why you waited for me? I ask, confused. I've been out of action for 6 months, and since I woke up, I've been running around all over the place. You could have advanced your classes ages ago, I'm sure. Alice hesitates, reluctant to answer, but Jern is all too happy to fill in. We waited for you, he said, as if it explained everything. Which it didn't. I get that. Why? The giant young man just shrugs. Seemed like the right thing to do. This shouldn't be this hard. Sure, why did you feel that way? I think if I answer that question, you're going to get mad. Damn it. Well, I'm here now, so we may as well get it over with. Go ahead and evolve, or whatever it is you guys do. Class advancement, Bertrand says helpfully. Yeah, that thing. I'm not sure what I expect, if they're just going to close their eyes on the spot, or start waving their hands around as they interact with a menu or something, but I'm taken aback when all 6 of them step towards me, raising their hands. Defensively, I take a step back. What are you doing? They pause. I was just going to put a hand on you while I did the class advancement, Jern tells me. Why? He doesn't hesitate. I don't think you want to hear the answer to that. Wah, you. Fine, sheesh. It's hard to get too angry with Jern, he just says whatever is going on in his head. He's right, I don't want to hear any of their nonsense. If they feel happier doing their thing with a hand on one of my legs, go nuts, it doesn't make any difference to me. Each of the 6 steps forward and ceremonially places a hand on a different one of my legs, which only makes me feel even more uncomfortable. It's fine, I can tolerate it. How long does this take? I ask them. Not that long, Bertram says, his eyes closed. We just have to pick a new class from the options given. Right, well, I suppose I'll just stand here, then. Trying to resist the urge to shift on the spot, I do my best to remain still, which proves to be far more difficult than I expected. This is the second time these guys are advancing a Templar-related class, I think. They were originally Templar initiates, or something of the sort, now there's something else, perhaps just Templar. Any interesting offerings? I ask, unable to keep silent. Templar of unshaking faith, Jern says. Sounds about right.